When we're looking at quality versus quantity, sometimes we have to look at the level of competition that a particular fighter may have faced. Now, some people are more for quantity, that is, how many opponents you face, and some people are for quality, the level of opposition that you're actually facing. Me, I prefer quality over quantity. If you have all the money in the world, would you buy a ubiquitous, cheap product, or would you try to find the best quality product you could? Alright, you can leave your answer in the comment section below. For me, I prefer quality. Something that's not only durable, but it's something that is aesthetically pleasing and something also that makes my lifestyle one in which it's more comfortable. I want something that's convenient. So, similarly, when I look at a boxer's career, I don't just look at quantity, I look at quality. So, having said that, I want to look at Oscar De La Hoya's career in terms of the level of opposition that he has faced. Now, when I was growing up, I wasn't an Oscar De La Hoya fan per se. In fact, on the contrary, I was more of a person who did not like Oscar De La Hoya. I actually despised him. But after listening to Fight Camp, I gotta tell you guys, I respect Oscar De La Hoya very highly. In fact, I admire his career because his career is one in which is set aside beyond any other career in boxing. And I'll show you how. Oscar began his career in 1992, and from the beginning, he was matched tough. Now, this was because he was not only an Olympian, he was not only an Olympic medalist, but like Sugar Ray Leonard, like Muhammad Ali, he was a gold medalist Olympian. He had reached the pinnacle of his amateur career at super featherweight. He began his career as a lightweight, strangely enough, not as a super featherweight, and he fought a guy called Lamar Williams. Lamar Williams had 7 fights under his belt already, and he had much more wins than losses. In fact, he only had 1 loss on his career, and he had 1 draw. Far be it, Lamar Williams was not a journeyman, he was not a bum, and generally most debutantes, they either face an inexperienced fighter like themselves, someone with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 wins under their belt, or they face a bummy fighter who has more losses than wins, or they face a journeyman who is even, say 5 wins, 5 losses, maybe 1 draw. In this case, Oscar De La Hoya was facing Lamar Williams, who had more experience and he had seen a lot more wins than losses, far much more wins. In fact, he only had 1 loss. Now, what happened to Lamar Williams was he was knocked out by Oscar De La Hoya in the very first round of the 6th rounder. What's even more impressive is that Lamar Williams was coming off of a knockout win, and he had never been knocked out himself. He had been outpointed the fight before. So Lamar Williams probably was expecting to beat this debutant by knockout as well, but instead the tables turned. In his second fight, he was moved up to face a journeyman in Clifford Hicks. In fact, in his next 3 fights, he fought journeymen, but they were at different stages in their careers in boxing. Now, Clifford Hicks was dispatched the same way like Lamar Williams, which was very impressive. First round knockout. Paris Alexander was knocked out in 2 rounds, showing that he had something a little bit more than Clifford and Lamar. And Curtis Strong in 4 rounds, showing that he was a level or 2 above Paris, Clifford, and Lamar. But what is impressive about this whole thing, in 4 fights, this guy has already fought 2 world-class journeymen. And that is very impressive. In fact, name me 1 fighter in the history of boxing that you know who has fought 3 successive high-caliber journeymen. And that would be a very exceptional fighter. Now, one thing that is needed to be noted is that Oscar De La Hoya, he also walked in the footsteps of Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard also was a gold medalist. But what's interesting is he was matched a lot tougher than Sugar Ray Leonard in the beginning of his career. So this is even more interesting because in his 5th fight, guess who he fought? Now Ray Leonard, he fought somewhere in his 10th fight, Floyd Mayweather Sr. But in his 5th fight, Oscar De La Hoya was facing Jeff Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather Sr.'s brother. The slick skill style you would think would have given Oscar some problems. What happened in the end was that Jeff Mayweather was knocked out by Oscar De La Hoya in the 4th round of his first 8-rounder. Highly impressive. What's even more impressive is that Jeff Mayweather would go on to win the IBO super featherweight title, which is a partial world title. Oscar would move up in levels yet again and fight Mark Grable, but this time he could not knock him out, though he knocked him down multiple times in the fight. He would move up again in another level to fight Frank Avilar and Troy Dorsey, as well as Ronaldo Carter. These were all 10-rounder fights, but were all stopped within the 10 rounds. He finally fought another journeyman in Angelo Nunes, and he stopped him in a shorter time. And then he fought a very experienced fighter who was not quite a journeyman, with a record of 35-13-2, Narciso Valenzuela, and he stopped him in his 1st round. After being matched so tough, he faced Jimmy Bredhal, the WBO's World Super Featherweight champion at the time, undefeated as well. He fought him at Super Featherweight, which a couple fights before he had fought at, but he had not fought with regularity as in other fights. He defeated Jimmy Bredhal, retiring him in the 10th round to take the WBO World Super Featherweight title in his 14th fight. And fights subsequent to that, Oscar De La Hoya never once again fought another journeyman, or he never ever in his entire career, should I say, ever fought a bummy fighter. Now, for you to understand what I'm saying, which is very impressive, is that a bummy fighter, first of all, is a fighter who has more losses than wins. That is, he loses more than he wins. Almost every fighter in the history of boxing has had a bummy fighter and has a bummy fighter on their resume. Sugar Ray Robinson has it. Sugar Ray Leonard has it. Muhammad Ali has it. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has it. This separates Oscar already from the pack, but what further separates him is this. After Oscar won the WBO World Super Featherweight title, he never fought in his career ever again, at least at the time he fought them, a journeyman. No one with a journeyman's record he fought. And if you don't believe me, just look at the records as we move up. I'm going to give you some notable names of fighters who were world champions, or Hall of Famers, all-time greats. We have Jorge Paez. He was once a lightweight champion, I think, or super featherweight, I'm not too sure. John Molina, who was a former world champion. Genaro Hernandez, who was a super featherweight champion, undefeated at the time, and also Hall of Famer. Jesse James Leija, another former world champion. The all-time great Julio Cesar Chavez. Oscar didn't just fight him once, he fought him twice at super lightweight, also known as junior welterweight, and also at welterweight. The undefeated Angel Gonzalez. Another great Hall of Famer and possibly an all-time great, Pernell Whitaker. Now these are not just guys he fought, these are guys he beat. He also beat the Hall of Famer Hector Camacho and Wilfredo Rivera. Then at welterweight, he fought and beat Ike Corte, undefeated fighter, and Oba Carr. He also faced the Hall of Famer Felix Trinidad and possibly an ATG as well. He also faced Darrell Coley and beat him. He faced Hall of Famer to be Shane Mosley, Hall of Famer Arturo Gatti, the super welterweight champion Javier Castillejo, IBA and WBA Super World Super Welterweight Champion Fernando Vargas, Luis Ramon Campos, who was once a world champion, Felix Stern, middleweight world champion. He faced Bernard Hopkins, who will be a Hall of Famer, Ricardo Mayorga, who was a welterweight champion and also super welterweight champion, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, who are all-time greats. And you will notice again, no journeyman on his resume from that point onwards. Now I'm going to say emphatically, in fact, I challenge anyone, anywhere, to find me another fighter who has on his resume not one single bummy fighter with a bummy record when he faced them. And on top of that, you have to also find me someone when they became world champion who never again in their entire career fought someone who was a journeyman with a journeyman record, at least at the time they fought them. I'm going to argue and put it out on the line that I don't think there's another fighter in the history of boxing who has done that. On top of that, think about this. Oscar De La Hoya is the only boxer besides Manny Pacquiao in the history of boxing to win 6 divisional world championships. No one else in the history of boxing has done that. Now, when you put those things together, you see how impressive and how much respect you must give Oscar De La Hoya for his career and accomplishments. And even above all, the level of competition he has faced throughout his career, being matched tough from day one to his final day. You guys have a great one.